Thanks for joining us at the Daily Buzz from the Toronto International Film Festival, coming to you on KUT Radio and online from Toronto, Canada. We're here in the Intercontinental Hotel, and today I'm speaking with Salvador Del Solar and Christian Meier, the director and the star of Magallanes. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi, Irene.
Hi, how are you?
It's a beautiful day here in Toronto. I'm so happy to be sitting here with you at this hotel, but I know that the majority of the population in Toronto right now is probably inside a cinema watching a movie. Your film premiered last night. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what the reception was?
Of course, it was a great reception. We have a lot of Peruvians and Latin Americans coming to our first screening at the TIFF, and it was really exciting to see, of course, a lot of people from Toronto, and we had a great reception. We had a long quick Q&A after the screening, so it was really exciting.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the film is about? Just a quick synopsis.
Yeah, this story is about a taxi driver, and a woman gets into his car, and through the mirror he recognizes her. She's looking elsewhere through the window, but he is like as if he has seen a ghost, and then secretly he begins to follow her, and he discovers that he's going through some economic difficulties. So we don't know why this guy, instead of turning around and saying, "Hi, Selena, you remember me?" which he doesn't, he secretly follows her and then gets into a really crazy plan to get a lot of money in order to be able to help her, only to discover that this woman would rather lose everything she has instead of accepting his help. So this is the story of two persons meeting again after 20-something years, now in Lima, the Peruvian capital, instead of Ayacucho, where they met before, and as a story of what do they have in common, what past they share.
So this, I'm curious, Christian. You're here in Toronto. You're looking very summer-esque in a very nice T-shirt and jeans, very stylish. And yesterday, when I was at the theater, there were women screaming for you, and everybody was all over the red carpet area taking photos. Not to embarrass you, but why are you so popular in South America?
They were all hired by my publicist. Yes. The thing is that I used to do a lot of TV shows and soap operas in South America for over 20 years. So there's a lot of Latins are naturally so passionate about this telenovela things. And yes, I also do movies, but when it comes to TV, no one can defeat that popularity. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
So, Salvador, can you talk a little bit about why you cast Christian and his role?
Yes. Well, we know each other very well. We were teenagers when we met for the first time, so we were friends before we were actors. And we began our acting career almost at the same time. So, and we've been together in TV shows. We've been brothers in one specific TV show called Scandal. And since then, we call each other brother. So it was very important for me to have him in the film. So I showed him the script just to get his opinion before telling him that I was thinking about him for the lawyer's role. And he loved the script. He came back to me and said, "Hey, this is well written, and I really liked it." "Oh, great." So afterwards, I told him, "Well, I would love you to do the lawyer's part." So it was very important for me in this opera prima, in this first feature film, to be surrounded by people that I care about, that they know they love this job. And so Christian is a brother to me. So it was really great for me to have his support.
Christian, let's talk a little bit about your role. You play the role of the lawyer, the son of the colonel. Do you typically play dramatic roles, or in telenovelas, is this a departure from the kind of characters that you play, and what were some of the challenges?
I know one of the big challenges in this movie was getting through all the stages of the character. I play drama roles and comedy as well. But this is something that I've never went through before. This guy starts the movie being one person and ends the movie being completely another person, right? Like the guy is literally broken and ripped apart emotionally, actually, physically, in every way. So it was an exercise that and a challenge that really the director put me in through. So it was as an actor, for the first time, I felt that I really had a job to do, a task to do. It was very. I was very committed to it because in the first place. We're friends, but there's a line between that separates, friendship from professional relationship. So I wanted to do a good job, not only as a friend, but to be loyal as his, character, his creation, right?
So, Salvador, talk a little bit about that. What is it like directing your friend? Was there moments where you felt that you couldn't say things that you wanted to tell an actor because you didn't want to hurt his feelings, or did you feel that it was easier to tell him because you could be honest and just be open?
I think that we went together through this really, really, I don't know the precise word, but as an actor, Christian, and in my case, as a first-time director, we were really far away from our comfort zone. So, of course, it was fun. This thing that we love since childhood. That let's tell this story. Let's pretend we are the lawyer, and that part was present. Of course, it was. But on the other hand, I perfectly know that Christian went far away his comfort zone, and I was. And so maybe my English is not going to be as precise as I wish for trying to describe this. But when you are away from your comfort zone, there comes this sense of brotherhood. No, we are together in this difficult place. Fun place, nice place, but frightening as well. So I felt that with Christian, I felt it with Damián Alcázar, with Lupi, but I think that especially with Christian, because he was very open. I really felt the trust he had on me, because we were exploring what was going on with this guy. So at the beginning of the film, the lawyer could be a character very similar to the characters Christian has done before. Not in the middle, and certainly not in the end. So it was a very interesting process to go through that journey together.
I would agree with you, not to give away too much about the movie, but I really think that his character was the hero, the unsung hero of the film. I know that the film is based on a book called The Passenger. Can you talk a little bit about the process of optioning the book and how you developed the script? Because I know you are the writer and the director.
Well, it's very, very interesting what you just said about Christian's character, because originally I began working in the adaptation of a novel by the same writer, and the novel is called La Hora Azul, The Blue Hour, in which the lawyer is the main character. So it's very interesting that you picked that way. In the process, it took years. During the first year, I worked with the lawyer as the main character, as in the novel. During the second year, I explored the possibility of having the woman as the main character, but as her goal was not to remember what has happened to her. She was very much into forgetting. Dramatically, she didn't really put the story forward, so it was very difficult for me. So in the third year, I tried to make the story about her son, and I invented a whole story about it, and I worked very hard for a year and a half. So little before getting into the fourth year, I discovered that the real door I wanted to use to get into this story was this secondary character, which is in the novel, in the Blue Hour, is called Chacho Osorio. But Chacho Osorio is a bad guy, and he's not complex, really. He just wanted to blackmail people for the money, and that was not interesting. So I spoke with the writer, with Alonso Cueto, the writer of La Hora Azul, And I told him, you know, I'm going to use Chacho Osorio as the door, as the character that will drive anything. I want him to be the main character. But I'm thinking about a guy that is actually conflicted, that he did bad things, but he's a good guy as well. And he told me, you know what? Actually, kind of the parent character of Chacho Osorio is this other character, this taxi driver, in this little non-published story that I have, that at that point was called The Passenger and the Fighter, and that finally has been published this year as a short novel called The Passenger. So it was actually a long trip to get this story out of these two books.
That's great. It sounds like the story came full circle. I'm really just so impressed that you are so persistent and so patient. And after 4 years, the story evolved into the kind of adaptation to what you really wanted to reflect. And
to interrupt you, is evolved to writing his first draft, and after that went through another 4 years to finish it. So it's been it's been a longer journey for almost 8 years or almost 9 years.
You must have been 12 when you started, because both of you look very young. But Christian, I want to talk a little bit more about your character experience. I know that you worked with a lot of very well-seasoned actors. Some of them were very popular television and film actors. One of the themes in the film that I wanted to talk about was the Colonel's character. And it's my impression that he had dementia or Alzheimer's because he couldn't remember things that he did in the past. Do you feel that your character in this film is a reflection of the family ties in a typical Peruvian family household where the son takes care of the father and provides for him, etc.?
In a certain way. I mean, my character starts as this very powerful man. He's a lawyer, moving in the highest spheres in society, maybe politics, and if we go back like 20, 25 years ago when he was younger, maybe when he was as a teenager, his father was fighting this, inner war in Peru, and as Salvador told before, maybe he wasn't aware of what his father was doing, not even aware of the war. He was living the good life in Peru, thinking that, oh yeah, my father, yeah, he's killing the bad people in Ayacucho while I'm here, going out with girls and studying and enjoying the money and the privilege of society or whatever. And maybe he based his whole life thinking about that. And when he decided to study law or becoming this huge character in society, everything was based on his father's prestige, right? Or this thoughts that he's a war hero, and realizing at his 40s that his father wasn't exactly like that. He wasn't a good guy. That he was a how do you call it, war crime or
War criminal.
War criminal, and maybe he realized that not everything in his life is real. I mean, I made my whole life on my dad's prestige, and now that I know that he's not a good guy, maybe I'm not actually nothing. Everything I got is nothing, because everything I got, maybe I got it for him, right? So that's when he first. I think his first thoughts are anger and his rage about his father. I mean, how could you get out of this and now leave me the whole problem? And you're, maybe you have Alzheimer, maybe you don't have it. I can go into your mind, but I'm carrying all your problems, that all the things that you did 30 years ago. Now it's on me. Okay, so he's thinking, I hate you, man. I hate you. I used to love you, but now I hate you. All my life is going to rip apart from now. How can I get out of this? And then the bomb gets straight to his house. I mean, he finally realized that war is chasing after him, like it's chasing after us. What I said last night, I mean, finally, the history is finally gets to you. No matter who you are or where you are, it's going to get to you at some point of your life, right?
I think you did a really good job of portraying that. Your character was very stoic, and I could tell by your facial expressions that you felt this enormous responsibility and sense of pride for your family and your father's legacy. And it's interesting that you say that, because I didn't think about it, that perhaps because it is undefined, that it could be it's just all in the colonel's mind. So that's another interesting twist. But I'd like to go back to Salvador, because I heard that the film opened last month in Peru and was a big hit. Could you talk a little bit about the reception in Peru, and then also maybe the political climate there now, and how this film has affected that?
Well, it's we are like overwhelmed by the reaction in Peru. We're finishing our 4th week on theaters right now and going to the 5th, and our film has really become a very strong conversation in the country. So you can check posts on Facebook and tweets and in the press, and people speaking, not only movie critics, but columnists, politics columnists. A lot of people are speaking about what's going on with the film and what the film is portraying. We are in a very much polarized political environment. We're having elections next year. Since the 80s and 90s, in which the country was under this violence and in very, very bad economic shape, the country has went through a great period of economic growth. Peru has been like the star in Latin America for several years, so we are very proud of that and very focused in the future. And the real economic theme for us is growth, and it's a way, I think, of going away from what happened just 20 years ago, which in historic terms is like yesterday. It's very much immediate. So in my take is that we are not having a conversation about this. We're pretending to have a conversation, but we are actually expressing our point of view. So I'm not really listening to you. To me, what happened is this, and this is right, and this was wrong. And to the other guys in the other side of the political spectrum is that no, it's what I think is this. So everybody's saying, I am from this team, from this party. But nobody's actually listening, so there's not conversation, no dialogue. Maybe the best way to get into that is literature, theater, film, and actually that is what is going on. Not only with Magallanes, and I'm really proud to say I've seen in different papers and blogs, Magallanes has become part of something that is actually going on right now. More than one film speaking about this time, this recent history of us. One great play that won an award last year, different books. Something's going on, and it's like our generation, because it's our generation. It's like turning around and saying, hey, what about what just happened? So it's really interesting and actually thrilling to feel that. I mean, I have in my mind that, I sat down for 9 years to write this, and maybe something else is really operating here, and we are just like little people responding to something greater that's going on in our country. And I'd like to be optimistic and to think that it's very good to have a good economy. Of course, it's good for everyone. It's good, and we should try to preserve it. But, we need more than bread. So we need to process what we had. We have to take our past and look it in its eyes and say, okay, this was wrong, this is terrible, and now this is good. And we have to put everything together and try to look into the future with a different perspective.
You know what's happening also now in Peru? That university, colleges, private and public schools are demanding the students to go to the movies and see Magallanes, to discuss it. Or maybe not even discuss it, but I know that in some schools, because there are kids, 15-year-old kids or 14-year-old kids that don't even know what Shining Path was. They say if you there are schools that they demand the students, if they go to see just for watching Magallanes, you're gonna get extra points on your finals. but it is kind of like a social conversation between the students for this new generations. It's a good part of it.
That's great, Christian. I'd like to continue on that. What does it mean to you to be a part of this film and this movement?
Oh, well, maybe I was like the general's son when I was 15. Yes, because when we were in our teens, we lived in Lima in a place in the city where it's like a very comfy zone. Eventually, some of the how do you call it, atentados?
Yeah, so like the bombings.
Some of the bombings came, around or closer to where we live, but we were like, far away from what happened, and we actually, as we grew older, afraid of the situation, we never thought that we were touched by it, and now, like being at our age and going back and think about that, and thinking that we are part of that history, that our sons grow up differently now, or maybe they're more safe than they were like 20 years ago. So I have a son, he's 18, and a couple of daughters that are 14 and 12, and I think they're more safe in that way that I was 20 years ago. So, I can relate to that, to the part of the movie.
Well, first of all, for people who are listening to this radio podcast, my jaw dropped when he said that he has an 18-year-old son, because clearly you were 5 when you conceived the child. But I'm very inspired by what you just shared, Christian, because I think a lot of people can relate to that. But it made me think, Salvador, growing up in this kind of environment that was very comfortable as a child, what inspired you to become a director? What movies influenced you? Why did you decide to pursue this path?
Well, my dream as a child was more becoming an actor than a director. I'm a lawyer, and I wanted to study law. I loved
law teacher. Yeah.
I grew up watching American series about law, LA law, and to me it was like everything. And in my mind, being an actor was not a viable profession. But when I finished law school, immediately I panicked, because I saw my life completely. I said, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer till the day I die. Do I really want to do this? And I was lucky enough to get into a drama school and begin acting. But I didn't really saw myself as a possible director. It just really happened gradually. And what I think that really moves me is this, telling stories thing. And regarding Magallanes, I've been thinking about this. We are different from other animals, because we, as a species, we tell ourselves stories all the time. So we are the stories we tell ourselves. But as it happens, we are also the stories we don't want to tell. And Magallanes is a good metaphor of that. We have to know the complete story. Individually, I think part of our job, our task in the world is discovering who we really are, and that's getting into depths and getting into what I don't want to see, but as a society as well. And I think it's. I was listening to you right now, and I was thinking, where does the truth lies? And maybe the truth is really more accessible through art, through film, than through the newspaper or through the history books. Maybe, and I'm almost sure about it, because there's something into art that gets into people. And that's why it's so wonderful what Christian was saying, to have kids whose schools and colleges are saying, you should go and watch this film. It's like, we were not thinking about that. And if the story is being told that way, it's really, that's why I was saying it's like overwhelming.
The final question to both of you. I'm so inspired really by your quest to tell the story and your desire to create options for people. That I think that's what's so important. What would you say to today's youth if they're, interested in pursuing a career in the arts, and maybe it's not that easy? Maybe their parents are telling them to take the safer route and to become a lawyer or to become a doctor or something that's much more conservative. If you were listening to yourself on the interview now, at that time, what would you tell your future self, to both of you?
Well, you start first.
Well, we have kids of about the same age. My older daughter is 16 and the younger is 12. And I don't know, maybe because of our own story as persons, we are very open and encouraging to them, like, do whatever you really think you love to do. And I discovered recently that, that's actually a lot of pressure. Because do you really know at 16 or 18 or 20 or 30 what you really want to do? And so it's a very delicate balance to say, life is about living it. Life is about taking risks. Life is also about feeling safe. And it's a journey you're going to have for yourself. So actually it's very difficult to try to guide young people into any direction. So it's I think our job, to me, for example, my elder daughter, she's exactly the way I am, exactly. And my younger daughter is exactly the way I wish I would have been. So what can I do when, I have no clue. I have no clue. So I'm learning every day, and trying to just be with them, having no clue and not pretending to have. I don't want them to feel unsafe, like, oh, my dad has no idea. But it's important to acknowledge, I think, we're not going to have any clue ever. And let's try to be good. Let's try to love and make mistakes and amend them. And I think there's no much more about that.
Yeah, I think our generation is the last one who was being pushed to do what your parents meant you to do. I remember when I was a kid, when I was my son's age, I was a really good drawer and painter, and my father said, if you draw well, if you make good draws or paint, you should be an architect. And I said, I don't want to be an architect. Yeah, because they draw all the time. They draw houses, and they and I don't want to do that. I want to do some things in the art. So I ended up studying something else. I ended up studying graphic designing, which I am. But the journey began as a graphic designer, and then I went into music, and then I ended up being an actor, which it wasn't. I mean, as Salvador said before, it is a journey that you go through, discover yourself, and you stay the longest you can in the comfort zone you're in. I mean, this is what if that journey leads you to an island, to just taking sun or eating coconuts, and you're fine with it. That's your life journey, right? So newer generations are more open to do what they want to do, and I think time changes, and we should be allowed these new generations to discover themselves, like we didn't have the chance immediately. So it took us a long time to discover ourselves or our real vocation in life. So I mean, my son is an actor, and he lives in LA, and it would have been, if I would have thought of that like 20 years ago, maybe my parents would have killed me, right? But I think life is about that, like discovering yourself and taking the time to do this. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I cannot recommend this movie enough. It really was inspiring for me, and I'm not from Peru. So I think that there is a global sort of appeal, and I think a lot of people will really respond well. So congratulations on getting into the Toronto International Film Festival.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for taking the time this afternoon. You're listening to The Daily Buzz from Toronto 2015 on KUT and online. And we've been speaking with Salvador Del Solar and Christian Meier, the team behind Magallanes. We'd like to thank KUT, our sponsors, Production Legal, Cloud Electronics, SoundCloud, Enki New York, and Angry Porcupine. I'm Irene Cho.